The beauty of international football lies in how smaller nations can achieve incredible feats often out of nowhere, regardless of their wealth or individual talent. But just as quickly as they rise to the top, they can also come crashing down in spectacular fashion. In this video, we'll explore 5 national teams that went from hero to zero, countries that, despite reaching great heights, eventually hit rock bottom. Starting out at number 5 with Chile. During the 2010s, the Chilean national team reached incredible heights. After a decade without any World Cup appearances, Chile made a triumphant return in 2010, though they fell to Brazil in the round of 16. In 2014, they faced the same fate, but only after 120 minutes plus penalties. It really felt like they could have achieved much more with slightly more favorable opponents. And 1 year later, that theory became a reality. Chile went on to win back-to-back Copa America titles in 2015 and 2016 and even reached the Confederations Cup final in 2017, beating the reigning Euro champions Portugal in the semis. At that point, most of us thought the sky was the limit for this Chilean side, so it came as a huge surprise when they failed to qualify for the 2018 World Cup. They did manage to make it to the semi-finals of the 2019 Copa America, but then missed out again on the 2022 World Cup. While their performances in subsequent continental tournaments have also been lackluster to say the least. The reality is that Chile produced a once-in-a-lifetime golden generation that brought the country to incredible heights. But without a well-structured football system in place, they haven't been able to replace their aging stars. As a result, they'll likely continue in this slump until another group of standout players emerges out of nowhere. Now, moving on to number 4, Paraguay. Staying in South America, Paraguay wasn't just one of the most defensively solid sides on the continent, they were among the toughest in the world. They didn't have a roster full of world-class players, but they more than made up for it with their tenacious fighting spirit. From 1998 until 2011, Paraguay was consistently good and always a thorn in the side of the strongest nations. And in the early 2010s, they hit their peak, coming just a penalty kick away from the World Cup semi-finals. 1 year later, they almost won the Copa America, only failing to Uruguay in one of the most unusual finals of the last 25 years. But after that, Paraguay entered a steep decline that they have yet to overcome. They failed to qualify for the next 3 World Cups and their performances in the Copa America became less and less impressive. The team that once snuck fear into their opponents seemed to lose its way. Key players retired and new talent struggled to fill the gap. It has been a slow and painful decline that not even several Premier League players like Miguel Almiron or Julio Enciso have been able to pull their country out of. Number 3, Egypt. When it comes to titles, no African country is greater than Egypt. They hold the record for the most African Champions League titles and the most AFCON titles in the history of the competition. The bulk of their 7 AFCON victories came during the 2000s, where they won the tournament 3 times in a row. A feat that's still unprecedented in football history. It's incredible to think they defeated some of Africa's best national teams, from Drogba's Ivory Coast to Essien's Ghana and Eto'o's Cameroon. Yet, despite all that success, they didn't make it to the World Cup in either 2006 or 2010. But after their last AFCON win in 2010, the real hard times began. Egypt failed to qualify for the next 3 African Cup of Nations, and even with the rise of one of the Premier League's best players of all time, they couldn't win a single match in their return to the World Cup in 2018. At this point, the Egyptian national team still lacks proper leadership, and despite having one of the most passionate fan bases in the world, they're likely to keep falling further behind nations like Morocco, Nigeria and Senegal. Number 2, Romania. Led by the legendary George Hagi, Romania was a force to be reckoned with during the 1990s. They qualified for every major tournament except Euro 92 and even reached the quarterfinals of the 1994 World Cup. It might seem hard to believe now, but back then, Romania was one of the most feared teams in Europe, even beating powerhouses like Argentina and England. They were fun to watch and easy to root for, true underdogs, but after the departure of Hagi and other stars like Mili Dimitrescu, Dan Petrescu and Gheorghe Popescu, the team entered a massive decline. They haven't played a single World Cup match in the 21st century, and their Euro Championship runs have also been kind of underwhelming. That said, Romania has shown some flashes of brilliance recently, performing well against Belgium and thrashing Ukraine in Euro 2024. They haven't completely fallen apart, so in a way, you can feel somewhat positive about their future. Unlike the last entry in this list, Bulgaria. If there's one example that truly encapsulates the Euro to Zero story, it's Bulgaria. Like Romania, Bulgaria experienced a golden era in the 1990s, with their golden generation taking them all the way to the World Cup semi-finals in 1994. However, the country failed to produce another batch of talented players and has steadily declined over the years. They haven't participated in international tournaments since year 2004 and are currently ranked as one of the worst teams in the UEFA Nations League. But the worst part of it all is that most of the blame has to be put on the same players that took the country to glory. Since the former captain Borislav Mihalov took over as the federation's president in 2004, the Bulgarian national team has sunk to new lows due to corruption and poor management. Mihalov frequently hired former teammates for management and executive positions despite their lack of competence until he was finally forced to resign last year. Unfortunately, in this case, there's no reason to be positive, as his successor, Georgi Ivanov, is essentially an extension of the former president with the added bonus of being a racist. And that is it for the video. Drop a like to help push this content to more people and subscribe to Throne FC for the best football videos on YouTube. As always, thanks for watching, I appreciate your support and I will see you in the next one.